A very warm welcome to the coverage of the fifth round of the season for the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. We are here in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. This place has been enjoying the sound of race cars since 1922, and for the first time ever we have the visit for the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup in its inaugural season, of course, coming to this 7-kilometre 4.3 mile circuit. 20 turns, 11 of them to the right and 9 to the left, and we have 12 cars preparing themselves for a two-part qualifying session. First of all, it's all in for the first 15 minutes, and then a break of around about 5 minutes before we head into Super Pole for the top 10 qualifiers. So welcome to our coverage. My name's Johnny Palmer. To my right is the editor of dailysportscar.com, Graham Goodwin, and it's getting spicy now at the top of the championship. Due in part to this car and its dominance, the number 72 SMP Racing entered car. We didn't see it at Silverstone. Away from the driver there, Alexei Basov. Very confident, no doubt, ahead of this qualifying session, Graham.
Absolutely, that has been the class of the field since it joined the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup action, and stands, well, if it wins this weekend, Johnny, it will, I'm afraid, it'll take the title before we go off to Estoril. The title chase now really between the three squads, with the SMP Racing team much to the fore, ahead of the TF Sport team with Ewan Hankey and Sally Yullock. This car, the number 71 Ferrari, one of a gaggle of Ferraris, the AF Corsa car of Mats Rasmussen, Felipe Barreros, the 14 car there, another of the 458s, and this is the Delena family car, if you like, and showed remarkable pace in the latter part of the race last time out at Paul Ricard. But, in the championship standings, it is the Alexei Basov Victor Scheitart squad, 77 points to the good now, ahead of Ewan Hankey and Sally Yullock by 10 points, and 25 points ahead of Egidio Perfetti in the Mentos Racing Porsche. Those are the three that could take this title. Much depends then on what happens for the remainder of the weekend around this fantastic Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
Yes, if Basov and Scheitart manage to win the race later on today, that will take them to 102 points, and Hankey and Yullock better hope that they finish second, and that will keep things just about alive. But almost we're getting to the situation there where Basov and Scheitart need to just turn up at Portugal.
Yeah, but remember, there is a single point for qualifying here, so that is going to be important for the other teams in contention, that the 72 car doesn't get to pole position this time.
Basov has proven himself to be a bit of a qualifying specialist. This is the track, though, that, or you're about to see some of the track there that will be racing on, the swoops and climbs. If you like a track with undulation, with twists and turns, then come to Spa-Francorchamps, and these are the cars down the Kemmel Straight now. Looks to be a little bit of debris at the start of that straight. I think it's more from the trees rather than gravel, but there is already some tyre pickup just offline down the Kemmel Straight that these drivers will need to be wary of. They're all on Michelin tyres, as the title of the championship would suggest. Through Les Combes goes the Mentos Racing Porsche, then the number 88 car. I'll remind you that it has to be the bronze driver in your driver combination that qualifies the car. Really puts the onus on the non-pro, and it's been fascinating to watch that side of the driver combination really improve as they get more and more experienced, with that big responsibility to get the car in a good position for the starting grid later.
Thus far, we're talking about the SMP Racing team. The cars have already been out for 2 free practice sessions already during this meeting, and the SMP Racing car has done no better than 5th place in either of those sessions. Now, that does, of course, include the potential for Victor Scheitart being at the wheel of the number 72, but we'll keep an eye on pace as the cars start getting up to speed, ready for their first crack at making the top 10, because, of course, we then get into the shootout phase, which got all very exciting last time out with, it was a late red flag, wasn't it, in the session, which meant there was one chance and one chance only for a bit of a change. It was Flick Haig, I think, in the Optimum Motorsport Audi, not with us this weekend, but that just managed to squeeze into the top 10. So certainly things to play for.
Give you an idea of the times we'll be looking for. Free practice 1, the fastest time in that was a 2:21 flat, and in free practice 2 a 2:19.685 from the 55 Triple F Racing Team by ACM McLaren 650S. I guess that's Adrian Quaife-Hobbs who put that time in.
It was the bronze driver in 221. It's Mark Poole that put in the 221 in the Lamborghini. So that is a very, very realistic bronze time, a 221. Let's keep an eye for that.
Absolutely. Coming into then the chicane that ends the lap, in fact further beyond to La Source itself. So already the Porsche, the number 88, is on a quick lap. We've already had 3 or 4 minutes of the session, 3 minutes as this lap started. So you can think, okay, 15 minutes is a long time, but a fair bit of that session is already whittled away before you've got round to the start line to attempt to start a flying lap. And Egidio Perfetti clearly trying to warm the tyres still, had a rally on there and onto the Kemmel Straight for the first time. What a fabulous sequence of corners down the hill into Eau Rouge itself at turn 2, followed by 3, 4 and 5 quickly, and now at Les Comps. And this is a replay of presumably Perfetti just hopping over the curbs into, is that Pouhon?
No, that's not Pouhon, that's the S's, I think. But Egidio Perfetti working hard at the wheel of this Porsche.
That's Fagnes, it will have been, turns 13 and 14.
It's been very, very quick, this car, but hasn't had the best of luck, particularly at the opening round at Imola. The car was rather rudely punted, but it is indeed Egidio Perfetti, the front of this row of cars. Behind him, Mark Poole in the Lamborghini, Cedric Mazard, Pierre-Marie Delana, Ivor Dunbar, Thomas Fleur, Mats Rasmussen, Alexei Basov, as we said earlier, amongst the remaining drivers in this session. 10.5 minutes remain. It is a long lap here, Johnny, so the opportunity to get those laps in, those rapid laps in, much reduced at Spa against some of the circuits we've already visited.
But also, because it is so long and complex, you could argue, there are so many bits you need to get right. It's going to be so tricky to get that perfect lap, and obviously as you come around and across the line you think, no, that wasn't quite right, but now I've only got 8 minutes to go, and then next time around it'll be 5 or 6 minutes to go, and the pressure really is on here to get that perfect lap and also try and avoid traffic. It's interesting that most of these cars have sort of broken away from anybody else, deciding not to use another car for a tow down the Kemmel Straight.
And Hiroki Hamaguchi looking very good indeed here. Now it'd be interesting to see what his pace is like, but he looks pretty quick, and Perfetti goes through. It's 2:26.5 for Perfetti. That's immediately blitzed by Hamaguchi. Goes to the top in the number 55 McLaren, 2:24.112. Then Eric Cairol in the number 26 Ferrari, who is edged back immediately by Alexei Basov. So it's Hamaguchi from Basov, Cairol, Perfetti and Mark Poole are the top 5. They are 5 of the 6 who've just completed their first flying laps. Ivor Dunbar goes through, and he goes 6th, now 7th. So 2:24.1 is the pace at the moment.
Yeah, plenty of time to still find, though. As we said, 2:19, a respectable time set by Adrian Quaife-Hobbs.
Goal
that
time,
was a goal time, yeah. But 2:21 is still a way off a 2:24, so 3 seconds to find, arguably. Will it come from this car, the number 72? Brand new Ferrari 488 in GT3 spec, driven by Alexei Basov, and with 3 race wins already to its name. Will it be a 4th this weekend? If it is, that's well and truly pendulum swinging towards these guys as far as the first ever Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup is concerned. Out of Speaker's Corner goes that Ferrari, and down to Pouhon. This is its 3rd lap, but 2nd flyer, and is catching the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini.
Improvement at the top of the times. It was what I was about to say. Let's keep an eye out for. We got an additional car this weekend. It's a Belgian entered Auto Club Excelsior rather, Aston Martin, and Michael Schmetz has taken the car to the top of timing and scoring, as this is delaying Basov now behind Mark Poole. 2:23.591. Hamaguchi, meanwhile, is looking like he might go quicker than that, with Basov a very quick middle sector but slower in the first sector. So this is going to be interesting stuff. Should also keep an eye, of course, on the bottom 2 and progress there, because they are the cars that risk been bumped out of this session after the first 15 minutes, halfway through that already. And the two cars in the drop zone at the moment are Pierre-Marie Delena and Thomas Fleur, 14 and 51 Ferraris respectively. Hamaguchi goes through, Johnny. It's a big improvement, 2:22 dead for Hamaguchi from Smets. Then Eric Cairol. Sally Yuluk pops up fourth. Basov goes to second, another man in the 2:23s. That's 1.2 seconds off the McLaren's mark. Really quick from Hamaguchi.
Yeah, but you could say that Basov lost probably about a second behind Mark Poole, who seemed a little bit indecisive. In the end, Poole led him through at turn 17, the approach to Blanchimont. But if that was Mark's plan all along to allow Basov through, I'm not quite sure why he didn't do it earlier on in the lap, because it looked like Mark Poole was backing off to maybe just allow the pressure away from the tyres briefly, and then he can push again for this lap. 6.5 minutes to go. 1:45.2 through the middle sector for the new car to the Cup, the Auto Club Excelsior entered machine.
Handsome looking car,
yes,
with a very nice livery. We've the AMR Brussels entry has appeared in a number of different colour schemes and a number of different championships. Great to see it on the grid for this series with a very fetching yellow and white scheme.
Up at the split, but that was up on its own time rather than everybody else's time, so it's looking like a personal best then for the yellow and white Aston, but the car in fact goes down pit road. So clearly Michael Schmetz deciding that that wasn't quite as good a lap as we had thought, and with 5 3/4 minutes to go, there is a chance of some adjustment for that Aston Martin before they throw it out again. Just bear in mind that there will need to be 2.5, 3 minutes still on the clock as it rejoins the track. Make sure it gets round before the checkered flag is shown. Here comes the McLaren 650S, then a Triple F Racing, with Hamaguchi holding on to provisional pole position as we stand.
As quickest of all, briefly in the middle sector. That mark is bettered though by Alexei Basov, who might do better. Way off there. That lap will certainly not count, I'm afraid. We've already had one lap deleted, which may well be bad news indeed for Mads Rasmussen. I think it was his quickest lap. We'll watch out for that. That could drop Mads Rasmussen into the drop zone.
But Hamaguchi deciding to stay out rather than bail out entirely from that lap.
Perfetti goes to the top.
So he does. A 2:21.477 from the Norwegian, but that's immediately bettered by Alexei Basov now at 2:21.096. That's a bit more like it from the Russian driver. Clearly not held up on lap 4. And the number 72 car then snatches provisional pole from Hiroshi Hamaguchi and from Egidio Perfetti in the time that it took to say Egidio Perfetti.
It's half a second between the three of them, Johnny. Very close thing indeed.
Ferrari, from Porsche, from McLaren, from Aston. What a great mixture of manufacturers on the front two rows as we stand, but there's still 4 minutes and 15 seconds to go.
Fifth place car is a different car again. It's a 458 with the screaming V8 rather than the turbo V8 on the 488 that sits on provisional pole position at the moment. That will all change.
Porsche out of Le Comte, down the hill towards Bruxelles. The downhill approach to this tight hairpin, spiralling its way towards Speaker's Corner as the track continues to plummet. The camera point there is actually level with the track earlier on in the lap, would you believe? Huge amount of gradient change at this fantastic circuit. Down towards Pouhon they go, then the double left-hander for Egidio Perfetti. 3.5 minutes to go. He'll squeeze this lap and one more, maybe two more out of this.
Fastest of all in the first sector for Perfetti. He's on a very quick one with no traffic to contend with. 3.5 minutes, as Johnny says, remain. Can he snatch this one at the death? He's just looking and just onto the dirt there on the inside. Throws up the dust in front of the Ferraris that follow. Includes Basov there.
Meanwhile, conversations being had in the pit lane with the Aston Martin crew. Now, blink and the screen all changes because Schmetz, at the beginning of all these times coming flooding in, was third fastest as Hiroshi Hamaguchi hangs back there and allows Perfetti through. Well, Schmetz is now in 6th position, so he's tumbled down 3 spots. Perfetti is safely by the McLaren 650S, which was going very, very slowly on the approach to Blanchimont. And I think that's Hiroshi Hamaguchi just trying to buy himself some clean air, although having said that, they're coming 3 abreast now past where the old bus stop used to be.
This is going to be close. This is going to be close. What can he do? And it's less than a tenth, but Basov still leads the session. He doesn't improve.
83 thousandths of a second. Perfetti missed out on getting Basov's, or at least equaling Alexei Basov's time. 3 cars now in the pit lane, including Hamaguchi.
Car 34 deleted due to the use of track limits at the 19.
And an ever quietening Eduardo Freitas there.
That was Sally Yoluk is going to be, I think, pinged for track limits.
The number 34 Aston Martin he certainly referred to, and the fact that track limits had been noted. And we get a message on at least our screen confirming that lap 4 for the number 34 car will be deleted due to pushing too hard as far as the track limits are concerned at turn 19, which is into the chicane by my reckoning, so maybe shortcutting that first element of the chicane at the end of the lap. Also, car 71 has had lap 5 removed because of pushing too hard through the Eau Rouge Raidillon complex.
That's just been adjusted on timing and scoring, Johnny. Now, I think that still has him not in the drop zone. That at the moment sees Ivor Dunbar and Pierre-Marie Delena, the 25 Ferrari 488 from FS Corsa and the 14 AF Corsa car that look set at the moment, although Ivor Dunbar is improving pretty rapidly his times. At the moment, they're the 2 cars that will be dropped out before we see the cars back for a second 15 minutes for Super Pole.
More dust kicked up there. That is what is colloquially called piff-paff. And dust kicked up at Campus Corner as well. Into Stavelot they go. The Porsche goes at the very least. And Curve Paul Frere approaching rapidly. So Perfetti on a charge, trying to squeeze one more lap out of this if he can. 35 seconds to go. He might get to the line before that runs out. If not, this is his last chance to try and go quicker than Basov, and he's not up at either of the first 2 splits. 2:21.179 his last lap, and that was the car's best into the chicane. Careful not to take too much curb there, and in fact Perfetti says that's enough. Clearly didn't feel that lap was anything special. Here is Basov though with a chance to improve because he's gone even quicker through sector 1. So the number 72 Ferrari will cross the line now and does go quicker. Of course he had pole position anyway at 2:20.6, Graham.
Wow, that's half a second up now on the remainder of the field, or the best of the remainder of the field. And that was, he really had to hold it. That was Tokyo Drift style, wasn't it? Through the final part of the final corner. Extraordinary lap there from Alexei Basov.
And he got across the line before the checkered flag as well, so he's got one more chance to do this.
But doesn't need to.
No, true.
Everybody else in contention here has pitted. Ivor Dunbar has improved again, is about to cross the line again. He does need, though, to find, well, a second and a half almost to pull himself out of the drop zone. Has improved his middle sector time. We'll keep an eye on that. Didn't have a particularly good first sector, though, Ivor, so I don't think that's going to be enough.
Let's give some plaudits to Thomas Fleur, though, and Cedric Mazar, Ivor Dunbar and Pierre-Marie Delena, who all improved on their last lap around. Again, evidence that this format of qualifying really does bolster, these people's experience of qualifying, and they were getting quicker and quicker around this tricky circuit.
And to confirm, no improvement from Ivor Dunbar, and there will not be sufficient improvement, at least for Pierre-Marie Delena. So unless there's a lap to be cancelled that's not showing on the screen at the moment, and I don't think there is, it looks as if the top 10, and therefore going through to the Super Pole, Johnny, will be the number 72 SMP Racing car, the fastest lap in the hands, of course, of Alexei Basov at 2:20.643, half a second ahead of the 88 Mentos Racing car we're looking at here, in the hands of Egidio Perfetti. There we go, here's the silky skills of Alexei Basov. Impressive stuff there. He's some bronze driver, isn't he?
Absolutely, yes. Almost like he's not been found out yet, but taking this title will certainly bump him up a grade, I would imagine. Well,
in 15 minutes' time or so, we'll know whether or not there's a further point to add to the haul.
That's right, because I talked about provisional pole a lot through that session, but really those times are only to allow you into Super Pole. We're going to see similar times set by the SMP Racing Ferrari and the Mentos Racing Porsche, the Triple F Racing McLaren, but all those times for the top 10 runners anyway will be wiped now. You can't carry those over into Super Pole. So the clock's reset What we do know is that the 25 Ferrari will start from 11th position later on today, and the number 14 Ferrari of the Delinas, Pierre-Marie and Adrian, will start from 12th position. But the other 10 cars will be in the top 10 somewhere, but in what order we know not which at the moment. That will be decided over the next 15 minutes.
We'll be getting underway for that session in just a click or two, over 2 minutes. But as Johnny said, towards the end of that session, remarkable variety at the top of the times in the first part. It's the Ferrari 488 of SMP Racing ahead of the Porsche 911 GT3R. Mentos Racing, 55 FFF, McLaren 650S GT3. FFS Racing team by ACM there, just a second back for what are charging Haruki Hamaguchi. Then Sally Yolok's best efforts, good enough for fourth in that session. TF Sports Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3. Then the first of the classic Ferrari 458s, the Whaling V8. That was classic and modern racing indeed, the number 26 car.
And interestingly, there was a car there not classified on the... that was the 14 Ferrari, so whether Pierre-Marie Delina had all his times deleted, I'm not sure, but there wasn't a time on that graphic there saying not classified. It will start 12th, I'm sure, later on today through a process of force majeure.
Car was certainly out there.
It was, yeah. I just wonder whether there were problems with track limits on every lap that it did. I certainly saw a couple of messages. Cars 25 and 14 to stay in the allocated working area. Well, we know why that is, because those cars have not qualified for Superpole. And Ivor Dunbar, you can see in the number 25 Ferrari there, stepping out of his 488. But the other cars, so we have quite a number of Ferraris still in the mix, 5 in total. There are a couple of Aston Martins that have made it into the final 10. The Porsche from Mentos Racing, Lamborghini from Barwell Motorsport, and the Triple F Racing McLaren.
That's been part of the story of the GT3 Le Mans Cup this year, Johnny. It has been about variety. The numbers have not been spectacularly large in the first season, but expecting a fairly substantial boost next year. But variety has never been an issue, and pace certainly hasn't either. Pit lane opens now. Green flag for the top 10. Now, this could be interesting in terms of tactics. Do you go out barnstorming around for the whole 15 minutes, or do you just wait for the opportunity for a clear bit of track and do a Basov?
Well, some cars are already taking the invitation. Interestingly, one of the Renault qualifying sessions, of course there are many Renault races here this weekend in support of the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, but one of the Eurocup Formula Renault sessions was 30 minutes in length, and we didn't see a car for the first 20 minutes. And everyone deciding to dive out at the death of that session, knowing about the window of tyre performance, and also you really need somebody to run with a lot of the time, particularly down the Kemmel Straight, although Alexei Basov proves that rule not to be quite right. He was better when he didn't have certain cars in front of him.
Touch more power from a Ferrari 488 than a Formula Renault 2 litre though, but I'd take the points.
Yes.
Thomas Floor there, one of the early takers for this session. Cedric Mizar is out, Eric Kirol, Sally Yuluk, Thomas Fleur, Haruki Hamaguchi, Mark Poole already out there. Alexei Basov joins the track too. Egidio Perfetti is running, but we wait for the addition of Mats Rappersson and Michael Schmetz in the Aston Martin.
So now 8 of the 10 cars are out on track. Many of them, though, just easing their way into this second part of the session. Hiroshi Hamaguchi, maybe with a bit more to give. He did seem to back out of that session reasonably early on, confident that he'd be in the top 10. And now here is the chance to truly perform. We know that this car is quick, having topped the times in free practice too, but Basov will prove stern opposition in the number 72 SMP Racing Ferrari, together with Egidio Perfetti's Porsche.
Glorious conditions here at Spa-Francorchamps this weekend. It is cooling breeze, I think it's fair to say, but pretty clear blue skies, high cloud. Ideal conditions for GT racing. Not too warm.
And dare I say it, this place can be prone to the odd rain shower.
Just a touch.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it looks like today and tomorrow for the main 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps will be dry. It won't be now, of course.
You've not been here much, have you?
Did you know this is my first time here at Spa?
Really?
Quite right, yes.
But
thousands don't believe that, but it is absolute truth.
It is. Wow, no, that was taking all the curb and a bit more. The photographer there waiting at the bottom of her rouge would have felt that coming by.
Absolutely. So motoring on is Thomas Fleur, who was, as I said, getting quicker and quicker in part 1 of qualifying. This is where it really counts, taking quite a bit of curb at Le Combe and loads of it on the exit of that corner. Through the final bit of Le Combe, it's 3 corners in 1 if you like, down the hill towards Bruxelles now. Ooh, and getting the car to the middle of the track, but almost a little bit too early, and now the car washes out as Thomas tries to keep control of it, so not as quick through the hairpin as he would have wished, through the corner that has no name, turn 9, and then down to Pouin.
And behind Thomas Fleur, it's Hiroki Hamaguchi and Sally Yuluk, both going actually rather quicker than the Ferrari at the moment. It's Thomas Fleur finding the limits.
Yep, certainly leaving nothing on the table on this lap, and it's very dusty offline. That'll be partly to do with some of the dust that's been kicked up through the first bit of Piff Paff, but also just that little bit of breeze that Graham talked about as well, bringing a bit of debris onto the track. So grip might be at a premium offline. More and more Michelin though, Michelin tyre going down onto this track surface and hopefully making it a bit more grippy towards the end of the session. Still got 10.5 minutes to go. This will be the first lot of flying laps then. Some of the green concrete taken by Thomas Fleur on the approach to Blanchiment proper. Now hard onto the brakes, braking as late as he dares, careful not to... Oh, and again a lose there, or a half lose. He mopped it up well, but that will have cost time too.
That was a watch this moment, wasn't it?
Yes.
He did, but he got that back, didn't he? Looked like that might just slide away from him. He goes through. It's a 2:25.375 for Thomas Fleur.
Again Fleur on the limit though into La Source at the start of the next lap. Here's another one of the AF Corsa Ferraris, the number 71 with Mads Rasmussen.
Gilles Buffetti just behind. Sally Yuluk goes through. It's a 2:23.719 for Yuluk. Hamaguchi a 2:23.845. Those two just separated by just over a tenth. And just over 1.5 seconds back to Thomas Fleur. They're the first 3 through. In terms of the real pace out there, it's not Alexei Basov on this lap. Watch for that number 90 Aston Martin though. This car, 2 incredibly quick sectors on its establishing lap. Fastest of all in the first sector on this, its first flying lap. Now remember, this is a locally based team. They will know this circuit extremely well, and we know that the Aston Martin V12 Vantage is a very quick package indeed in GT3 spec.
2.6 seconds up. Well, the first lap, of course, was an out lap for the Aston.
This is a very quick lap, Johnny.
Yeah.
This is a very quick lap indeed. It's just over 8.5 minutes left. The number 90 car. Addition to the grid this time out. And what can the local team do on their local track? It's like putting a tenner down at your local kart track, isn't it?
It is a little bit, yeah. This is obviously home advantage, and we're going to see that a few times across the weekend with the Belgians letting rip here at Spa. So over the line then goes Michael Schmetz and goes top at 2:20.647, which is pretty equal to Alexei Basov's time.
That is 3 seconds quicker than Sally Yuluk has managed at the moment. Yuluk, though, is improving on this lap, as indeed is everybody else. Let's see who's next through. That is all the cars bar the number 14. Sorry, the number 71, number 14 of course out the session, have so far established a quick lap. Big spread though, 12 seconds is the gap first to 9th at the moment, but that is just first offers.
So Basov still to set a competitive time in Super Pole, but when you compare the lap that he did in the first bit of qualifying with the lap time that this Aston Martin has just done, there ain't a lot between them. They're in the 220s, so this could provide a fabulous bit of competition for the number 72 Ferrari, at least in qualifying.
Hiroki Hamaguchi's just come through just half a second back, so the McLaren's not giving up on this one either. Sally Yolok closes up a little, but doesn't improve. I think he gave up his lap really, but has come through the final sector very quickly indeed. So he knows how fast an Aston Martin can go. These guys are showing him he wants to match or better that. So watch for the TF Sport car as well. So it's Schmetz from Hamaguchi from Yolok, Aston Martin from McLaren from Aston Martin at the moment. Ferrari yet to play a significant part in the session. Kicking up the dust on the inside again from the number 90 Aston Martin. Went quicker, by the way, than it did in the first sector last time around. And pushing very hard, has had a very clear run in this qualifying session. They've judged this to perfection. Quicker again in the middle sector. This is going to be an improvement for the number 90. Still no traffic. Perfetti puts the Porsche into third position now. Basov up into fourth, ahead of Yolok, who is improving.
Bear in mind, these are the guys as well that will start the race. You have to, well, you don't necessarily have to start with the bronze driver. Oh, the Aston's gone a bit too deep though into the chicane, so that's some time lost. You don't have to start with your bronze driver, but generally that's the way the teams play it. So over the line, what's the time going to be for the number 90?
And that lost him.
It did. Lost in the time through that final sector. It was purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2, but a slow time, 37 seconds flat.
Way off there for the number 71 car.
Rasmussen. That was at have woken him
Radion.
up. Yeah, Radion itself, coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion. So that will have grabbed Mad's attention if he wasn't concentrating enough already to gather that up. Marcus Paltela having a big slide yesterday in the Renault Sport Trophy as well, thankfully keeping it out of the wall. It's a daunting part of the circuit, a daunting part of kind of world motorsport really, the famed sequence at Eau Rouge.
Unsurprisingly, that lap will be deleted. Track limits is one way of putting it, absolutely terrifying is the second way of putting it.
So, and again, if you know that your lap's been deleted, it's a long way before you get back to the pit garages there in the distance of that shot. So you're wasting precious time. The 34 car, the ES Motor sponsored Aston Martin, the one we've seen all season in this Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, just heading down now out of La Source and towards Eau Rouge.
Up to fourth for Sally Yolok, another big kick up of the dust at the bottom of Eau Rouge. He is ahead at the moment of Alexei Basov. Basov, though, is going quicker this time, but not quickly enough, I don't think, Johnny, to grab back that pole position quite yet. Hamaguchi, meanwhile, didn't improve on his last flying lap, but has gone quicker than anybody in Sector 1 this time. Perfetti's going very quickly as well. This could be all change right at the end of the session. It's 4 minutes to go. Here comes the Porsche. Quick first sector, not as quick in the second sector. Basov goes second.
221.082, and Perfetti goes quicker. So we now have Schmetz out front in the 90 Aston Martin, Egidio Perfetti up to second in the 88 Porsche, and the 72 Ferrari possibly trying to, well, it is possible for that car to win the championship this weekend, but it's at the moment going to start from third position. We still have 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and now Hamaguchi going quicker than anybody else through Sector 1.
This is almost a bit, well, it was a big moment. Just the back end of the Porsche kicked out. Perfetti gathered that up. That will have lost him time, though. Number 8 Ferrari, Cedric Exart in the pits. 9th fastest at the moment in that car. Tiny margins up and down the field. It's just 6 thousandths of a second was good enough to get Perfetti second over Basov.
And less than a tenth.
Schmetz, meanwhile, has gone quicker again. It's a 2:20.393 for the Aston Martin. That puts 7 tenths between the number 90 car. We see again that moment for the number 71.
So we have 4 cars separated by 3/4 of a second. And we're talking about the number 90 Aston Martin of Michael Schmetz, the McLaren of Hiroshi Hamaguchi.
Who goes second?
who goes second. You're quite right, yes, so that's closed it up even more now. 0.7 of a second between Schmetz, Hamaguchi in the McLaren, Perfetti in the Porsche, and Basov back of that little pack then. 4th position for Alexei Basov in the number 72 Ferrari.
But he seems to pick all his time up, Johnny, in the second sector. He does it again. He goes quicker than anybody. He's not as quick as the other cars in the first sector, but blitzes through the second. This could be good enough for a pole position lap, because that is mightily quick through the second sector. About a second quicker than anybody has managed through there, other than Basov. And we're about 30 seconds away from finding out whether S&P Racing can add yet another point to their tally. 2 minutes to go on the clock. Hamaguchi's still pushing though, he's not given up either.
So Hamaguchi, purple through sector 1. Basov, purple through sectors 2 and 3 and goes quicker than anybody else at 2:19.7.
Wow.
So that's actually a 1.2 second swing, because he was 0.6 of a second slower than Schmetz. He's now 0.6 of a second quicker than Schmetz. So talk about finding time through sector 2 and 3 for that matter. A 2:19.785 will take some beating with just 90 seconds on the clock. Here's Mads Rasmussen, again not the ideal line into the chicane. Also car pitting there, which was...
It's one of the Ferrari 458s.
Okay.
It's the 26
car, the classic and modern racing
does
Ferrari.
Lift that lap does lift Rasmussen off the bottom of the field though. Puts him up to 9th ahead of Cedric Mizar, who's in the pits for a little wee while with a bit of problem for the number 8.
And what of Harushi Hamaguchi then, coming towards the end of his lap now, heading for Blanchimont. This is lap 6 of the session for the McLaren 650S.
I think he can close the gap on Basov here. I don't think he can beat that time.
Oh, way off the track, way off the track.
So that won't count. He does have the opportunity here for another lap should he decide to take it.
Quite right. 40 seconds, and the tyres will be a little bit dusty and dirty after that run off the track, but over the line goes Hamaguchi, a 2:20.236, but we reckon that time will be taken from him because of the excessive use of track limits out of Blanchimont, on the absolute limit into La Source. The car weaving from left to right, trying to get the thing stopped. Good acceleration out of that hairpin and down the hill towards Eau Rouge.
No further part of the session for the number 90 Aston Martin. No, checker flag is out.
Yep.
No news yet of Hamaguchi's lap being taken from him, so at the moment he's on the front row of the grid. Schmetz in the Aston Martin pits, so does Jolek. He will do no better than 5th. Cairol in 6th and Mizar in 10th, also in the pits. Basov looks like this is another quick lap from Basov. There's no overall improvement, but that's a massively quick middle sector. This could be a very quick lap again. He pits from there, but I think that was another lap in the 2:19s from Basov if he'd chosen to do it. My guess is just outside his delta. In comes Mark Poole as well. Hamaguchi will keep an eye, has given up on this one. That's not a quick first sector.
No,
he's lifted.
4 seconds off.
Perfetti though is still on it, and he improves his time but not position. 2:20.860 from Egidio Perfetti.
So a 2:20.236 for Hamaguchi. Slight question mark hovering above that just because of the amount that he was off the track coming through Blanchimont, but we haven't had a message to say that that lap is under review, so it looks like the McLaren will start on the front row for the 5th round of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. Later today, we'll remind you, it's a 2-hour race, and each driver has to be in the car for at least 55 minutes. And as I say, what tends to happen is that the bronze driver, the non-pro, goes in first, and then the lion's share of the race, an hour and 5 minutes, is done by the pro driver to the flag. But they're always entertaining races. Often the non-pros can get a little bit away from each other, but then the pros, when they get in, seem to then get the trajectories back into line, and all the cars get very, very close to one another in that final sort of half an hour, 20 minutes. The 25 Ferrari just being wheeled down the pit lane now to post-session scrutineering. Here's the 55 McLaren then with Hiroshi Hamaguchi. We're pleased with his work so far today, qualifying that car on the second row, down pit road, and will receive the checkered flag effectively in the pit lane.
as will Thomas Fleur. Last car out on track, the number 51 AF Corsa car. We'll share this car with Francesco Castellacci again. And, well, that was a very engaging stuff. We now know how quickly, in the hands of a non-professional driver, a GT3 car will go around Spa-Francorchamps.
Absolutely.
But Ferrari 488 it is to take pole position, Johnny, from the McLaren. And then with the Aston Martin Porsche making up the second row. There we have it.
So 0.451 of a second, the gap in the end between the SMP Racing Ferrari 488 of Alexei Basov and Hiroshi Hamaguchi in the Triple F Racing team by ACM McLaren. Great work by the Auto Club Excelsior squad. Yes, they're at their home race, and this is their first action of the season in the number 90 Aston Martin, but just 0.6 of a second off Basov's time, which was very impressive. Mentos Racing will start fourth in their number 88 Porsche, and Egidio Perfetti with some work to do, therefore, in the race to keep his championship aspirations alive. And the 34 car, closest rival to the 72 squad coming here to Spa, the 34 Aston Martin of TF Sport, will start from 5th position after a good effort from Sally Yolok, which means that car will start from the 3rd row. A view of the Ardennes Forest and this fabulous setting of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And we look forward to round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, which is just around the corner later on today, and a 2-hour race. I know Charlie George, our reporter down in the pit lane, is hard at work trying to locate Alexei Basov, and we will be hearing from Alexei very, very shortly just to get some reaction from that session, which will have concerned him at times, I think, because all of a sudden, I mean, he's been very, very dominant in qualifying, but he's had some rivalry during that session, particularly from the homeboys, Auto Club Excelsior. So well done to Michael Schmetz. He's qualified the Aston Martin from 3rd position, but it's high time we hear from the man that will start from pole position later, who now joins Charlie George.
Another pole position for you, Alexei. It looked like it was harder work this time.
Yes, thank you very much. I start Russian language and after translator. Я очень доволен, ведь это мой и командный pole position. Мы выиграли квалификацию, и мы счастливы. Хорошая работа. I'm now happy. It's for pole qualification. It's I and we team, SMP team, and happy. Plus 1 point championship. And now race, it's no risk.
Thank you, Alexei. Well done.
Спасибо.
And Alexei makes the point there, and I can adjust my spreadsheet accordingly now, that they do gain an extra point, both Alexei Basov and Victor Scheitar. So if they win the race, they'll be on 103 points. Which means if the 34 Aston finished 2nd, it still would keep it alive heading towards Estoril, but it's very, very tight.
It's getting tighter still for Egidio Perfetti to have any mathematical choice, chance whatsoever. That point does just edge them away.
Because, of course, not only is the Ferrari scoring very well, but the opportunity to score more points is waning as well, because by the time we get to Portugal, there'll only be 26 points on offer.
Now, a point here. I mean, Alexei Basov has throughout the season tried beautifully to actually have an interview in English, but a part of it, Johnny, is that he's using so much mental capacity to squeeze what he can out of that race car. I've spoken to Alexei Basov. His English is actually a lot better than it sounds there.
Yes.
And that's actually about just how hard he had to work.
Yeah, good point you made there, Graham. Well, we hope you enjoyed our coverage of qualifying for the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. We look forward now to the 5th race of the season, which is later this afternoon, 5 o'clock local time through till 7 p.m. Do make sure you rejoin us for that. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer, though, for the moment, it's goodbye.